Tom Caron and Brock Holt have always made such an impact on the Boston Red Sox community, but now they're doing even more to give back to people who really need it.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And it is all for free. So you really have nothing to lose but to check it out. Locked On is your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Welcome to the show. Happy Friday. You made it through the week. For whatever reason, this felt like one of those really long weeks. That was such a drag. I don't know if you ever have weeks like that where you feel like it's just taking forever for it to be over, but you made it to the end of the week. Congratulations. Hope you have something fun planned for this weekend because you certainly deserve it, and appreciate everybody for tuning in always to Locked On Red Sox as this Red Sox team looks to try to secure a playoff spot. They have such a tough stretch of games here coming up, and it's going to be really crucial for them to string together some wins. So later on in the show today, I'm going to be talking about just some observations from the Rangers series as a whole. But more importantly, we have to recognize the people who make an impact on the Boston Red Sox community off the field. And Brock Holt and Tom Caron are both names of people that have served as legends for the Boston Red Sox. Brock Holt as a player who just really embraced the Boston experience and what it was like to play there, and winning a World Series with the team in 2018, hitting for the cycle during that playoff run, which was pretty cool, and just really loving being in Boston and being a part of the community. Then you have Tom Caron, who just is a legendary Red Sox broadcaster and has been doing it for a very long time, is really passionate about what he does, passionate about this team, and passionate about sharing the story of the Boston Red Sox. So two names who have been very impactful for the Boston Red Sox from a baseball standpoint, but now they're giving back even more as they have been named the co-chairmen of the Jimmy Fund. And it's really meaningful and impactful for both of them because Brock Holt has always been heavily involved with the Jimmy Fund. It was something he really embraced when he came to Boston. And the Jimmy Fund, if you are a little bit unfamiliar about what exactly they do, it was established in Boston in 1948, and it's basically made up of community-based fundraising events and other programs that benefit Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Millions of people have given money to the Jimmy Fund to help save lives and reduce the burden of cancer for patients and families worldwide. It was founded by Sidney Farber, and it solely supports the fight against cancer, raising funds for adults and pediatric cancer care and also childhood cancer. So very much impacting lots of people across the world to help with curing cancer and sharing people's stories to shed light on just how prevalent it really is in today's society and how it just is an evil, evil thing. And they are working to find a cure every single day. So Brock Holt has always been heavily involved with the Jimmy Fund. He actually threw out the ceremonial first pitch at Tuesday night's game against the Rangers. And the moment was super emotional for him because he was surprised by a familiar face. He and his wife, Lakin, have really close ties to the Jimmy Fund dating back to his tenure with the Red Sox, during which time he actually befriended a young cancer patient named Maddie LeClaire. The two of them developed a really special bond, but LeClaire unfortunately passed away in 2017 at the age of 15 after a battle with osteosarcoma. Very heartbreaking. And just truly emotional for Brock, who got really close with her. So Maddie's mother, Dawn LeClaire, was brought out to join Brock as a surprise guest on Tuesday when he threw out the first pitch. She threw it out with him in honor of her daughter, and Brock Holt got super visibly emotional. I mean, what a tough moment that is. After helping the Red Sox win the 2018 World Series, Brock Holt brought out a duck boat of cancer patients to celebrate with him in the parade. So this is something that he has very much always held near and dear to his heart. The Jimmy Fund has been partnered with the Red Sox since 1953 to spread awareness and raise funds for cancer patients and treatment. Holt was a co-captain for the Jimmy Fund in 2015, and he stayed involved even after he left the Red Sox. So being a co-chairman is truly a special moment and opportunity for him. And Tom Caron really is excited about the idea of working with Brock to really spread the mission of trying to beat cancer, strike out cancer, as the Red Sox say. And the two of them together, just people who have always truly been really involved in the Boston community, are going to work diligently to make this mission what they want it to be and to really get the most out of it. And from the standpoint of guys who are always around the Red Sox, it'll be great to be able to see them partner with the Red Sox to continue in their efforts to fight cancer for years and years to come, and hopefully forever. And what's been really powerful to me is that during the Jimmy Fund Radio Telethon, which took place earlier this week, the Red Sox brought some cancer patients into the Nesson booth during the broadcast to share their stories about what they've gone through and what they've had to endure while fighting this awful disease that they're facing. And it's really powerful and also heartbreaking to hear the way that this really tears apart families and the patients. And having Tom Caron and Brock Holt, two people who are so passionate about this mission, be at the forefront of it all to hopefully eliminate a lot of those stories and not have families have to face this type of situation is super powerful. And this is one of my favorite things about the Red Sox organization, and what they do is just dedicating countless hours to getting people to donate money to the Jimmy Fund, which you can still do. You can text K Cancer to 20222 to donate $25 to the Jimmy Fund, or you can call in. There's all of this information on the Jimmy Fund website about what you personally can do to make a difference. And a little bit goes a long way. I mean, these patients just need anything. And what intrigues me is how brave some of these kids are. I mean, young kids going into the Nesson booth during the Red Sox broadcast and just talking about their story. It really is super impactful, and I'm sure anybody listening can relate and connect with this, and it hits close to home because I'm sure so many of us have dealt with knowing somebody close to them who has been impacted by cancer. I know I have, and it just truly is a really amazing cause that the Jimmy Fund is doing this, and they bring themselves together every single year for a couple days during the Red Sox season to really raise awareness and get people to dedicate their time and money to help out. So Brock Holt and Tom Caron are two great people to help make a difference. And I think it's important to shed light on things that people are doing to give back to the community outside of the baseball field, because these people need it. And there is so much more to life than just the sport. And it really is powerful the way that they're giving back. So really excited to see their efforts moving forward. Cannot think of anybody more deserving of this honor than these two, who just always work tirelessly to make sure that people are having the best experience they possibly can when attending Fenway Park. And now they can make sure that families are not being torn apart by this awful thing that is cancer. So looking forward to seeing that. And coming up, I'm going to be talking about the Red Sox and some roster moves they made on Wednesday and how it's going to impact the team moving forward. This summer has been crazy hot. And in a crazy hot summer like this, it's so important to stay hydrated. And you can do exactly that with Liquid IV, which you can pair up with water to ensure you're staying hydrated. It is a substance that has a variety of different flavors like pina colada, lemon lime, tart cherry, raspberry, popsicle firecracker, which is a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. Tear, pour, live more. One stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. It truly will make a difference. And just as a little bit of a cheat code, it also helps after a night out. So take advantage of it and buy some Liquid IV today. I promise you'll be happy you did it. Thanks for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sully is so funny. I've had the pleasure of doing a few shows with him, and it's always a great time. So if you want to hear about the other teams that the Red Sox are chasing in the playoff race, highly recommend it. On Wednesday, the Boston Red Sox did make a few roster moves prior to the rubber match against the Rangers, and it was a busy day for Boston. So the Red Sox were coming off of 2 straight wins against the Rangers, which is great. They walked off the first game in 10 innings, 5-4. Rob Refsnyder was the hero in that game, delivering the walk-off hits. And then they won a big 9-4 game on Tuesday. And then going into Wednesday's game, they did make a few moves. They reinstated outfielder Jarren Duran from the suspended list, who had been suspended for 2 games. So he was back in the lineup. They also had to place left-handed pitcher Cam Booser on the 15-day injured list due to left elbow inflammation. So in a corresponding move, they recalled Brennan Bernardino from AAA Worcester. He has not been great this year, so not ideal. And then in a corresponding roster move to bringing Duran back, they optioned Enmanuel Valdez to Worcester following Tuesday night's game against the Texas Rangers. So a few moves that the Red Sox did make. I mean, Cam Booser being on the injured list, definitely not ideal. The Red Sox can't really afford to have injuries, especially to their pitching at this point in the season. And in the Red Sox 9-7 loss against the Rangers on Wednesday night, Brennan Bernardino did come into the game. He pitched 0.1 innings, so wasn't in the game for very long, but he got the job done, did not give up any runs there. But overall, I have not been impressed with Bernardino this season. 3.79 ERA, but compared to what he's been doing the last couple of seasons prior to this, I was very much not thrilled in his performances at this point in the season so far. And I definitely feel like he is better off being in Worcester at this point or being DFA'd. The Red Sox, unfortunately, don't have a choice right now because of the injuries that they do have. But he has had scenarios where he's pitched this year and he's given up lots of runs. And in the past, he's been a guy who's been super reliable. He's been the go-to in lots of high leverage situations. And right now, he unfortunately is not that. So him being where he's at is not ideal. Jarren Duran being back in the lineup, of course, is ideal for the Red Sox. When he came back on Wednesday, he did get 1 hit, though he went 1 for 5 in the game with 2 strikeouts. So definitely not his best performance, but he did miss a couple games, and he previously hadn't missed any games for the Red Sox this season. So it could have thrown him off or put him in a little bit of a funk in that first game back. He currently on the season has just been the Red Sox go-to guy in the lineup, the guy who really could do everything, five-tool player who just made an impact in so many different areas of the game. So despite the fact that he had to be suspended for a couple games, nobody can argue that having him in the lineup makes the Red Sox lineup better overall. And he'll likely be in every single game moving forward because he's just too important of a player to not have around. Not only is his speed alone a valuable piece on a Red Sox roster that really utilizes their speed to win games, but also additionally, he just makes such an impact with the bat because he's been so hot offensively this year, and defensively he's been able to make some really nice plays because of the fact that he has that speed, so he can stretch himself out to various parts of that outfield. So very fun player to watch on the field. He's been making an impact in so many different ways in this Red Sox lineup. And it'll be exciting to see how his career progresses moving forward because he is somebody who the Red Sox should keep around long term. When they do some reshuffling of their roster, who knows what it's going to look like next year, who's staying, who's going, especially with the fact that in that outfield, Roman Anthony is lingering. He's eventually going to get called up to the majors. So at that point, what do they do about their outfield situation? Likely we see a situation where they let go of Cedar Rafaela or Wilyer Abreu, two guys who are both having really good seasons this year. But if they're looking for a diverse skill set, they likely would keep Rafaela and maybe trade Abreu because he's having a good season. So his value would be high. They'd probably get a good return for him. So likely Rafaela would be the one to stay in that outfield with Duran and eventually Roman Anthony. And that's a very talented group right there. But Duran likely is here to stay. I just see him as too valuable of a player not to stay. And when he's utilizing that speed, it's really making a difference, along with Cedar Rafaela in the lineup, also being very fast and able to travel around the base paths quickly. David Hamilton is the third who, from a speed standpoint, has been able to make an impact this year, but he is a liability defensively, made a couple errors in that final game against the Rangers in key situations, and that is not good. He definitely has that very glaring weakness to his game. It's so very obviously his downside. So he needs to work on his defense. Likely that's going to cost him. I mean, the scenario with David Hamilton is tough because taking his speed out of the lineup is a huge loss for the Red Sox and something I really don't think they would want to do. But at the same time, if they do make the playoffs this year, you need to have reliable players in the infield who are able to make the routine plays. And he just was not able to do that on Wednesday night, and he hasn't fully shown that he has the ability to be a strong defensive player. So I'm looking at him as a player who's a question mark in terms of how they utilize him. Maybe they do put him on the playoff roster this year if they make it, but he's primarily just used as a pinch runner in key spots because that would be fantastic for him. He steals bases really well. He has a good read on the ball, and he just is somebody who I feel like is too valuable to not have around. But in the long term, what is his role going to be? And that's where it gets difficult, especially with the fact that Nick Sogard is here and has been playing very well in his time so far since being called up to the Red Sox. Then you have Rafaela, who can obviously play shortstop. Trevor Story eventually is going to be coming back, possibly this season now, supposedly, but likely not. He'll be back in the fold too to play shortstop. So then where does Hamilton fit in? That's going to be the likely question mark. But having the speed of Jarren Duran, Cedar Rafaela, and David Hamilton in the Red Sox lineup is too valuable to not have right now. It throws off opposing pitchers, and it's something that I feel has been great for the Red Sox in terms of their ability to win games and has set them up for success a lot of the time. So definitely something they're going to need to figure out. But having Jarren Duran back in the lineup definitely makes an impact. We knew Valdez was going to be a short-term stay. He's kind of bounced around between AAA and the majors, primarily when there's injuries. He gets the opportunity to get his call up. So that's the only thing that I feel he is used for, is he's primarily a AAA player. But if the Red Sox need somebody because there's an injury, he'll get called up, but he just hasn't shown enough consistency at the major league level to be felt and looked at as an everyday player in the majors. So unfortunately for Valdez, short stay for him up in the majors, and he's back down in AAA. Not sure that there really will be a spot for him on this team moving forward, but he is somebody that they could package into a trade and get a decent return down the road. So maybe that's something they look into. But obviously, Duran back in the lineup is a huge upgrade over Valdez, so that one makes sense. Cam Booser, unfortunately, being injured, I do worry about that a little bit. He has just been overworked this year, and in the first half of the season, he was a very reliable reliever. But in this second half now, he's kind of fallen off, and I feel like it's because a lot of it has to do with the workload that he's getting and Alex Cora having to utilize these guys in the pen because the starters haven't been able as much to go deeper into games. And one thing I will say about this series against the Rangers is that I did like what I saw from Brian Bayo. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, and 5 strikeouts. He pitched the opening game of the series. Unfortunately, he did not get the win in the game, which is tough, but he pitched really well and pitched deep enough, which I really liked. So definitely making progress from that standpoint. And also Tanner Houck, even though the game on Wednesday was a mess, he did pitch 6 2/3 innings, giving up just 2 earned runs. He only struck out 3, but he was able to get himself into the 7th inning, which I thought was huge for a team that has had to go to their bullpen in that inning a lot. So definitely made an impact that he was able to pitch deeper. And I'm hoping that that can continue with the starters. But Wednesday's roster moves kept the Red Sox busy. But guys like Jarren Duran being here, you absolutely need. So it makes sense. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about what exactly happened in that Rangers series, especially the collapse in the last game when the Red Sox were on a brink of a sweep. So you definitely won't want to miss that. If you're looking for a fun way to play daily fantasy sports, PrizePicks is absolutely the place for you. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. All you have to do is just download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It really is that easy. And if you want to win money instantly, might as well check it out because it's a lot of fun. But don't say I didn't warn you if you do get addicted, because you very much can. On today's show, I talked earlier on about the Jimmy Fund and the impact that it has on the lives of so many people. And somebody who can personally speak to that is Brianna Wakefield, Tim Wakefield's daughter, who went into the Nesson booth during the broadcast and was very powerful in what she was saying. She was talking about Tim Wakefield's legacy and the impact the Jimmy Fund has had on their lives as a family. And she said, it means everything. Ever since I was a little girl, it changed my whole perspective on everything. So she grew up really having a firm grasp on the Jimmy Fund and what they do, and the fact that cancer is just an awful thing, and unfortunately had to experience it in a really tough way firsthand with both of her parents. So that poor girl, I can't imagine what she's going through, but the Jimmy Fund makes an impact on people like that and hopefully can continue to do that for years and years to come. The Boston Red Sox, on the other hand, had a very messy end to the series against the Rangers. I liked what I saw from the offense, primarily in the second game of the series when they scored 9 runs and won 9-4. Big day for Connor Wong as he drove in 3 runs on 2 hits. He did hit a home run in the game. Devers 2 hits on the day as well. And then the Red Sox kind of fell apart in game 3 when they lost 9-7 in extra innings. And Masataka Yoshida had a big 3-hit game that day. He's been on fire lately. His batting average has increased a lot in this second half, and he has figured something out. I really like it, whatever it is. He's more confident out there. He's hitting more pitches, and he's able to just go out there and get the job done, which is more than what we could say from him for a while. So from an offensive standpoint, the Red Sox are getting the job done. They're getting hits, and they're stringing together good at-bats. And they put up 7 runs in the game on Wednesday. And when you score 7 runs, for the most part, that should give your team a good chance to win. The Red Sox should not have to put up 7 runs every single night in order to have even a chance to win that game. And unfortunately, they completely collapsed in the late innings, and that has to do with the bullpen. They were literally up by 3 runs with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th and couldn't get the job done and lost in extras. Josh Winkowski gave up 3 earned runs when he came into the game, pitched 1 inning. Zach Kelly gave up a run and pitched 1 inning. He took the loss in the game. After Tanner Houck pitched such a gem, the bullpen came in and fell apart. Luis Garcia gave up a home run too. The only relievers who really looked solid were Bernardino and Martin, both of which didn't pitch for very long in the game. Chris Martin being back from the IL is huge, but this bullpen is an absolute mess right now. It is not fair that the Red Sox were up 7-4 late in the game, and then the bullpen came and gave up 5 runs in a really short time span. It's very concerning, and Alex Cora doesn't have much of a choice here. I've seen a lot of criticism of him and the bullpen management as of late, but what choice does he really have? Because the Red Sox are in a situation now where many relievers have been overused, especially due to injury. And Craig Breslow tried to fix the problem by acquiring 2 relievers at the trade deadline in Lucas Sims and Luis Garcia. But Garcia really hasn't been cutting it since he's been here, and he needs to figure it out ASAP, or the Red Sox might DFA him when Justin Slayton comes back, and that would be a terrible look on them because they gave up 4 prospects for Garcia at this trade deadline. So I think they're really going to do everything they can to not have to resort to that. But if he doesn't start performing quickly, they might have to if they want to make a playoff run. And it's unacceptable for a performance like we saw on Wednesday to happen. Granted, the Red Sox had already won the series. We saw lots of good things from them in the series as a whole, but they absolutely cannot lose the way that they did on Wednesday. One of the worst losses of the season, maybe even arguably the worst loss of the season for this team. And for me, I was looking at it and I was appalled. Absolutely appalled at the way that the Red Sox lost that game. And David Hamilton's defense did not help the situation either. Like I talked about earlier, just made a couple errors in key spots in the field to extend the game. They had what should have been a game-ending double play in the 9th, but he made a bad throw. Romy Gonzalez had to come off first base, and the game continued. And as a result, the Rangers then tied the game in the 9th inning and went ahead in the 10th, and we know how that ended. Now, I keep saying it's about winning series, and that is the case. They do need to keep winning series, but this sweep was right in front of them. They have the opportunity to sweep the Rangers and go into the series against the Orioles with fantastic momentum, and they just unfortunately did not do that, and the bullpen is fully to blame for that. Alex Cora has to use guys who are available, and to me, because they have this long stretch of games coming up with very few off days, and they're all must-win games now, he has to conserve arms. So you might have been asking, why didn't Chris Martin come into the game instead of Luis Garcia? Probably because he has to conserve Martin's arm so that he is able to throw more down the stretch in those key situations and that he's available more in crunch time. And I think you're going to start to see some obscure decisions when it comes to the bullpen because of the fact that Alex Cora is kind of backed into a wall right now. Guys are being overworked because of the injuries and because of the fact that the starters for a while since coming back from the All-Star break were not able to pitch deep enough into the game. So he had to turn to the bullpen earlier than he wanted to. The James Paxton game where he went down and the Red Sox got hit with a curveball and it had to be used as a bullpen game, even though they used a bullpen game the day before. These bullpen games can be really taxing on pitchers. And that's why Cooper Criswell is slotting back into the rotation as the number 5 starter, because they need a consistent every 5th day starter, or else the bullpen is going to continue to be fatigued. It's a similar problem that we had last year. And I talked about this on the show last year, how when the bullpen gets overworked, Alex Cora doesn't always have a choice in who gets used when. So you might look at this bullpen and you might say, oh, Alex Cora should use Chris Martin here. But if Chris Martin doesn't come into the game, you might be like, what is Cora doing? But it might be because Chris Martin isn't available at that time because he just threw a lot of pitches the last couple days, so they can't use him. So it could be really scary watching this bullpen. They need to figure it out. These guys need to do their jobs. And at the end of the day, Alex Cora is in a tough spot because obviously he wants to use the guys that make the most sense to use, but they're not always going to be available in those scenarios because of the fact that the Red Sox have just had injury after injury to this pitching staff. So if they were fully healthy, things would be a little bit different. And if guys like Brian Bayo and Tanner Houck could get themselves fully back on track and pitch deeper into games like they did in this series, then the Red Sox could start to be a little bit pickier about who they use when. But right now, it comes down to who's available. So Wednesday's game was an example of that. The Red Sox were backed into a wall. They faced some tough situations with putting base runners on, and Alex Cora just had to use who was available more so than who made sense at the time. So moving forward, we have to keep that in mind. But this bullpen is an absolute mess right now. This team is not going anywhere in the playoffs unless they get that situation figured out. So they better get it figured out sooner rather than later. I really hope they do. Big stretch here coming up. What did I like from the Rangers series? The offense in particular. They are continuing to score runs and they'll win games scoring runs. So if they're putting up 9 runs, 7 runs, that theoretically should be enough to win games, but the pitching has to do their part too. So biggest takeaway from the series, bullpen is still an absolute mess. Offense is a firepower. Hopefully that can carry that momentum moving forward and that they can win some games, because it's going to be really crucial here down the stretch if they do want to make an impact in the playoffs and they do want to be successful. So as always, we as fans can do our part and just keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.